120 words per minute for 10 minutes. 5 seconds more. Start. The Indian Army is the land-based branch and the largest component of the Indian Armed Forces. The President of India serves as the Supreme Commander of the Indian Army, and it is commanded by the Chief of Army Staff, who is a 4-star general. 2 officers have been conferred with the rank of Field Marshal, a 5-star rank, which is a ceremonial position of great honor. The Indian Army originated from the armies of the East India Company, which eventually became the British Indian Army, and the armies of the princely states, which finally became the National Army after independence. The primary mission of the Indian Army is to ensure national security and nationhood unity, defending the nation from external aggression and internal threats, and maintaining peace and security within its borders. It conducts humanitarian rescue operations during natural calamities and other disturbances, and can also be requisitioned by the government to cope with internal threats. It has also been an active participant in numerous United Nations peacekeeping missions. The Indian Army has a regimental system but is operationally and geographically divided into 7 commands. It is the second largest standing army in the world, with around 12 lakh active troops and around 9 lakh reserve troops. Immediately after independence, tensions between India and Pakistan began to boil over, and the first of 3 full-scale wars between the two nations broke out over the then princely state of Kashmir. The Maharaja of Kashmir wanted to have standstill position. Since Kashmir was Muslim majority state, Pakistan wanted to make Kashmir a Pakistan territory. In 1948, Pakistan invaded Kashmir, and as a result, Maharaja Hari Singh appealed to India for help and signed the Instrument of Accession to India. An intense war was waged across the state, and Pakistan suffered significant losses. Its forces were stopped on the line formed, which is now called Line of Control. A number of UN resolutions were passed calling for a plebiscite to be held in Kashmir to determine accession to India or Pakistan. A precondition to the resolution was for Pakistan and India to return to a state of as was prior to the conflict. Pakistan would withdraw all tribesmen and Pakistani nationals brought in to fight in Kashmir. With Pakistan refusing to pull back, there could be no further dialogue on fulfilling the UN resolution. After the partition of India, the state of Hyderabad, a princely state under the rule of a Nizam, chose to remain independent. The Nizam refused to accede his state to the Union of India. The following standoff between the Government of India and the Nizam ended in September 1948, when India's then Deputy Prime Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel ordered Indian troops to secure the state. With 5 days of low-intensity fighting, the Indian Army, backed by a squadron of aircraft of the Indian Air Force, routed the Hyderabad state forces, and the state of Hyderabad was proclaimed as a part of the Union of India. Even though the British and French vacated all their colonial possessions in the Indian subcontinent, Portugal refused to relinquish control of its Indian colonies of Goa, Daman, and Diu. After repeated attempts by India to negotiate with Portugal for the territory were spurned by Portuguese Prime Minister and dictator India launched Operation Vijay in December 1961 to take Goa from the Portuguese. After a brief conflict, Goa, Daman and Diu joined the Indian Union. The cause of the Sino-Indian War in 1962 was a dispute over the sovereignty of the widely separated Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh border regions. Aksai Chin, claimed by India to belong to Kashmir and by China to be part of Xinjiang, contains an important road link that connects the Chinese regions of Tibet and Xinjiang. China's construction of this road was one of the triggers of the conflict. Chinese soldiers attacked India in both the northwest and northeastern parts of the border and captured vast portions of Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh. As the fighting moved beyond disputed territories, China called on the Indian government to negotiate. However, India remained determined to regain lost territory. With no peaceful agreement in sight, China unilaterally withdrew its forces from Arunachal Pradesh. A second confrontation with Pakistan took place in 1965. Pakistan President Ayub Khan launched Operation Gibraltar in August 1965, during which several Pakistani paramilitary troops infiltrated into Indian-administered Kashmir and attempt to ignite an anti-India agitation in Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistani leaders believed that India, which was still recovering from the disastrous Sino-Indian War, would be unable to deal with a military thrust and a Kashmir rebellion. India reacted swiftly and launched a counter-offensive on Pakistan. Pakistan's defeat at the Battle of Asal Uttar hastened the end of the conflict. An independence movement broke out in East Pakistan, which was brutally crushed by Pakistani forces. Due to large-scale atrocities against them, thousands of Bengalis took refuge in neighboring India, causing a major refugee crisis there. In early 1971, India declared its full support for the Bengali rebels known as Mukti Bahini, and Indian agents were extensively involved in covert operations to aid them. Wary of India's growing involvement in the Bengali rebellion, the Pakistan Air Force launched a preemptive strike on 10 Indian air bases. This aerial offensive, however, failed to accomplish its stated objectives and gave India its excuse to declare a full-scale war against Pakistan the same day. By midnight, the Indian Army, accompanied by Indian Air Force, launched a major three-pronged assault into East Pakistan. Pakistan launched a counter-attack against India on the western front. Indian Army, which had invaded East Pakistan, entered Dhaka and forced Pakistani forces to surrender. After Pakistan's Lieutenant General A.A.K. Niazi signed the instrument of surrender, India took more than 90,000 Pakistani prisoners of war. In 1972, the Simla Agreement was signed between the two countries and tensions simmered. However, there were occasional spurts in diplomatic tensions. The Indian Army has played a crucial role in the past, fighting insurgents and terrorists within the nation. The Army launched Operation Blue Star in the 1980s to combat Sikh insurgents. The Army, along with some paramilitary forces, has the prime responsibility of maintaining law and order in the troubled Jammu and Kashmir region. The Indian Army also sent a contingent to Sri Lanka in 1987 as a part of the Indian peacekeeping force. In 1998, India carried out nuclear tests, and a few days later, Pakistan responded, giving both countries nuclear deterrence capability. In mid 1999, Pakistani paramilitary forces and Kashmiri insurgents captured deserted but strategic Himalayan heights in the Kargil district of India. These had been vacated by the Indian Army during the onset of the inhospitable winter and were supposed to be reoccupied in spring. The regular Pakistani troops who took control of these areas received support in the form of arms and supplies from Pakistan. Some of the heights under their control, which also included the Tiger Hill, overlooked the vital Srinagar Leh highway. Once the scale of the Pakistani incursion was realized, the Indian army quickly mobilized about 2 lakh troops and Operation Vijay was launched. 2 months into the conflict, Indian troops had slowly retaken most of the ridges they had lost.